Hello everyone and welcome back to the Calham64 LP Retrospective, and in this one we're going to be looking at my freaking ambitious as hell, in my opinion anyway, LP of Sonic Heroes for the GameCube. Wow, where to begin with this one? I suppose I could start by saying how this whole template worked for the LP. So in Sonic Heroes, you have 4 teams. In this case, it's Team Sonic, Team Dark, Team Rose, and Team Chaotix. And what I mainly wanted to do is show off each individual team and how they act, showing the differences. Where basically Team Sonic is known as the standard mode, Team Dark is the expert mode in my opinion, Team Rose is basically easy, and Team Chaotix is just completely different in terms of gameplay. Even though you go through the same levels for each team, I wanted to give the audience a choice, so you could choose to watch all of the levels through with Team Sonic, or Team Dark, or, any of the 4 teams. But of course it didn't end there, as I decided to go for an all A rank run for every team. The main reason why I decided to go for all A ranks for Sonic Heroes is because I honestly got fed up after a while when people kept saying that Sonic Heroes is a bad game because it's really slow. I really wanted to show the fact that when you do get an A rank, you can't say that the game is slow paced. Honestly, yeah, there are some sections where you have to stop and stuff, but still, you stop like for a couple of seconds, obliterate a bunch of enemies, and then just progress on. Seriously, it is a fast paced Sonic game, and it's honestly one of my favourite Sonic games I've played, in my opinion. And I wanted to do my best to show that off in the LP. And of course, I chose to show off the GameCube version of Sonic Heroes because, well, it's just hands down the best version in my opinion. Probably next to the Xbox version as well, because as a kid, I did grow up with the PS2 version of this game, but that version, just the frame rate is a bit laggy, there's a lot more bugs going on here and there, and let's just say, the GameCube is just the superior version because it has a rock-solid 60 frames per second frame rate. Every single sound clip is there because I noticed a couple of those were missing from the PS2 versions, particularly explosions and stuff, and it's just downright good. So yeah, Sonic Heroes was literally recorded from an actual GameCube system. Much like how I recorded Sonic Spinball for the Sega Mega Drive, I too used an RGB SCART cable from my GameCube, hooked it up into my scaler, and managed to record Sonic Heroes in 60 Hz and at full 60 frames per second, and I think it looks pretty good, I find. And that was like that through every episode going on, so it captured the smooth and fast gameplay. That was the thing I was going for in this LP. Speed. I mean, it's Sonic after all, isn't it? But the thing I will admit that made it a little bit difficult going for an all A rank run is the fact that my HD TV in particular has input lag whenever I use it with my scaler. So of course that meant, yes, I had to go for an all A rank run in Sonic Heroes, but with input latency from my controller. I cannot describe how annoying that was in certain places, particularly with Team Dark. I always remember that also. I would literally press a button and it would happen like a couple of milliseconds later. And sure, it's only a couple of milliseconds, but when you're trying to do precise platforming in a Sonic game and going fast, that can really throw you off. You want it to be an instant response, really. Also, this game was far too fast and frantic for me to do live commentary with, so in the end I had to resort to post commentary because I did try it with live commentary to begin with, but it was, oh my god, it was horrible. Because of it being a Sonic game, it meant that everything went by extremely fast, so by the time I was talking about one thing, I already moved on to the next bit, and I just couldn't do it live and perform good at the same time, because you gotta remember, I was going for an all A rank run. That was my ambition. So doing that alongside live commentary was a bit overkill, so I thought, nah, I'll just do post commentary because at least then I can talk about stuff and make the commentary interesting instead of me being all jumbled all over the place, So the way I recorded Sonic Heroes was actually literally just one huge playthrough through each team. So I would have one evening where I play from the beginning to the end of Team Sonic, and then Team Dark, Team Rose, and Team Chaotix. So yeah, I would literally do that. I would do one sitting playing through the entire story of a team, so that then I had all the footage to work with, and then every time I went to do post-commentary, I would cut it up so that then I could get to the bit where I talk about that particular level. That's how it went, really. So the actual recording of Sonic Heroes went well, except I do remember Team Dark was a bit of a pain in the ass. After all, Team Dark is basically the expert mode, meaning that the levels go on for a hell of a long time in places, so it meant if I screwed up once, I had to redo the whole thing again. With Team Sonic, you know, all the levels were evenly balanced, so if I screwed up, I was like, no problem, I can just start again. But Team Dark, it was a major issue anytime I screwed up. That, alongside the input latency as well, was not helping. Of course, this has been solved nowadays, because I found a way where I can basically split my SCART signal so I can plug it into my old-ass CRT television, so that then I have absolutely zero input latency, and I don't have to worry about a thing when it comes to control. I'm going to be playing it exactly how I would usually do it, you know? I remember having a blast, though, talking about some of the broken mechanics in the game. Or at least not really broken, but just, you know, some places it can be a little bit overpowered. Particularly when I showed off in, places like Robot Carnival, when you become the flying type and you start throwing the characters around. Like, if you're Tails, for instance, and you're level 3, you can basically obliterate everything, and it's so much mayhem and chaos going on, and it was, I don't know, it's just so fun to talk about that. Oh, but the one I always remember, and I still do this to this day, I will be honest, anytime I boot up Sonic Heroes, I'm always going to do this. In Team Chaotix, when you get to Robot Storm, when you basically defeat all the horde of robots, when you perform the Team Blast, you get a whole bunch of rings depending on how many enemies you defeat, and if you use that, when there's a whole bunch of enemies around you, you get an absolute crap ton of rings. I mean, I'm talking like you can honestly get up to 999 rings if you kept it going. And it was so fun to make a complete mockery out of that, because that's just one thing I always do whenever I boot up Sonic Heroes, I will be honest.
And also, watch this, ready? Look at how much rings we're going to get throughout all these enemies, and 446, that's nearly like 200 rings in 5 seconds.
Even showing the best strategies on the special stages was something I remember as well, where my recommendation was literally turn into the power type, grab a whole bunch of balloons, mash the B button, and as soon as you get to level 2, hold it down and then just move about, and that's it, you've basically won the Emerald. That was my recommendation, and it seemed to work every time, so it was fun to point that out. Oh, not to mention I can't forget about the team battles either. Like, for instance, if you beat Power Plant as Team Sonic, you then fight against Team Rose, and all you literally have to do is just perform the tornado attack as Sonic, and you've basically won. Moments like that I always remember, especially when hilarious stuff like this happens.
Froggy, where are you? Level up! It's a win if we can force Sonic and his team off this field. But if we get forced out first, they win.
I always love it in games whenever the character is talking, and even though you've done the thing that they're talking about in the first place, they're still continuing on, so it just makes no sense, and I don't know, I'm a bit of a weirdo. I like that kind of thing going on. Even though it sort of was a long project where I show off each individual team, it didn't feel tiring, because actually recording it was a piece of cake since I could easily just play through it in one sitting. It didn't really go on for long, finding stuff to talk about through post-commentary wasn't really that difficult, so even though there was a lot going on, it was actually quite a casual project. But the part that wasn't casual and actually required a lot of effort, and this is one of the reasons why I find it to be the keyword ambitious, is the assets and aesthetics that I decided to do for this LP. So in the past, I mean, if you've seen some of my other retrospectives, I've talked about some of the banners, the profile pics that I've made, the intros and the outros, and that was pretty much only just for that game. Well, imagine that, but for 4 teams. Yes, I built assets and aesthetics for each individual team. So in this case, it basically meant that Team Sonic had its own YouTube banner and profile pic. And during my playthrough of Team Sonic, that is what showed up, as well as the intro and the outro was all based around Team Sonic. Then after that was finished, I had to switch over, so then Team Dark was next, where I would then have a banner for Team Dark, and an LP icon for Team Dark, and an intro for Team Dark, and even an outro, and then vice versa with Team Rose and Team Chaotix. That is basically what I did. I even recolored the Sonic Heroes logo going on to match with the teams. In this case, instead of it being blue for Sonic, red for Knuckles, and yellow for Tails, or maybe orange even, I changed it to the colours of the characters going on, so it suited it going on. Like I said, there was an awful lot of production value when it came to Sonic Heroes, and this was an LP of all things. Like, I didn't have to do all this. but I really wanted to show off the team aspect of Sonic Heroes. I think it was honestly though because this was the very first LP project to have team mechanics thrown in. Every other LP I did before that was pretty much solo. You played as that character and then you went through it, except I suppose there are some exceptions given the fact that, you know, Crash Bandicoot 3, some of them you play as Coco, but that's like 2 characters, you know, it's not really that different going on, so there's no point in making the assets back then. But for 4 teams, I just felt it was necessary for some reason. So that meant that each time I finished a story for the team, I had to make all those assets all over again for each team. It was a lot of work. I will be honest though, from the Let's Player's perspective, it was exciting at first. I mean, I really loved talking about everything when it came to Team Sonic and Team Dark. But when I got to Team Chaotix, I was really running out of things to say. Because, I mean, you gotta remember, each team goes through the same level. There isn't really a lot that you can say about the levels. I mean, most of the things that I talked about in the levels were already said enough in Team Sonic and Team Dark. So to find new stuff to talk about during Team Chaotix was somewhat difficult. So when I did actually finish Team Chaotix and get to the last story, I was really happy because I had so much stuff to talk about. Of course, even though I do love Sonic Heroes, I also did give a bit of criticism to the game as well, where, you know, some bits I did say, yes, this is stupid, why is this a thing that you have to do? Like, yeah, I will agree, even to this day, I still think it's rather annoying that in order to unlock the last story, you have to play through as every single team. Like, only make it 1 or something, or if you're gonna play as like a different team, change it up a bit. I mean, they did that with Sonic Adventure 2, didn't they? Sure, there was a dark story, but Shadow, Rouge, and Eggman's levels were completely different to the hero's story. Sure, they were the same gameplay going on, but they were in completely different settings and areas, so it felt worth playing through it. You don't get that in Sonic Heroes. You're going through the exact same levels, just some of them are a bit harder, or a little bit easier, preferably if you're playing as Team Dark or Team Rose, or even just a mission kind of thing going on with Team Chaotix. That's literally all there is. So basically, let's just say I went through Seaside Hill 4 times, and that's the same through each level. But I'm glad I stuck with the idea of going for the all A rank system in Sonic Heroes, because honestly, during the LP, I wanted to make each video entertaining depending on whatever happened. So it meant that even if my commentary wasn't good at places, because of the fast gameplay going on and me getting all the A ranks, it kept you amused because everything was just going by really quick, you know, with all the light speed dashes and blowing up things really quick. So the thing that kind of sucks is I didn't really keep up to date with the annotations at the end for the outros, because when next previous and playlist appeared, it usually had these squares that you clicked on which linked you to the other videos and playlists, and even the character would then all click on me to subscribe to this channel. I didn't really update it that much, and nowadays YouTube has dropped that support completely, so the outros are completely pointless being at the end and stuff because they don't navigate you anywhere. You can try clicking on one of them, but all it's going to do is literally pause the video, because nowadays all we have to work with is end screens, which are much better in my opinion. Oh, and the thing that's crazy, by the way, and I'm honestly quite surprised I even did this or so, this LP was scheduled. I had a time limit to actually get all this stuff done because I was going on holiday again. So I had to get it all done literally within a month or so, because I remember the LP launching at around late July, and then the holiday happened in late August, so I had around a month to literally get all the assets and aesthetics done for each individual team and get the whole LP complete. And I did do it in the end, but oh my god, it was quite stressful in places. But at the same time, I didn't really care because it was Sonic Heroes, and I was having a fun time making it in the process anyway, so, you know, what can you do? So that meant when I did edit the last episode, it was only a couple of days before I was going on holiday, so when I got it all done, rendered and uploaded, I was like, oh my god, yes, I did it! I got it all finished before the thing that I go to, and that's fantastic. Oh, and I was super excited when I came around to doing the last story. The fact that I got through every team, got all the Chaos Emeralds, showed off every A rank going on, and there was one final thing to do, to beat Metal Sonic and get that last A rank, so that then I can officially show off that the LP was indeed an all A rank run. Honestly, looking back at the LP, in my opinion, it's probably my favourite LP that I've made on the channel. Just the gameplay going on was fast and entertaining, the commentary was rather interesting going on, and I talked about some interesting things with the differences of teams going on here and there. It was a choice of the audience choosing which team they want to go through. The fact that I went absolutely freaking overkill on the production value. And I don't know, I just find it really good in my opinion. Or if you don't like it, fair enough. The only thing I would say that needed improving from it, in my opinion, would literally just be, one, I needed to get a better mic because I was still using my Microsoft Live Chat LX3000 headset. So it meant that my voice wasn't really the clearest. I'm pretty sure you'll find the difference or so because, okay, let me just show you a clip of what it sounded like.
And I absolutely love this level, because this is what I mostly liked about, Sonic Adventure 2, grinding mechanics, and there are a whole bunch of them in Rail Canyon and Bullet Station and things,
And listen to me now, this is me speaking on my new microphone nowadays, and if the voice was like this on the actual original LP, it'll be fine. And another flaw is from the actual editor's perspective, because you guys probably didn't really notice this, but I noticed some of the episodes, the game volume was sometimes a bit too quiet, sometimes a bit too high, so the balance wasn't really that even. I think it was because I was still literally getting used to using Adobe Premiere Pro with the best advantage going on and finding an evenly balance along the way, so I didn't really get it unfortunately. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about my LP of Sonic Heroes for the GameCube. There is honestly way too much for me to recap over when it comes to the ending, so I think you get the picture of why I liked it, okay? So, join me next time where I move on to my next project, which was Metroid Prime Blind for the GameCube. Even though I did play the Metroid Prime Trilogy version on the Wii, or particularly on the Wii U, shall I say, upscaled. And that was a bit of a long LP, so see you then. And I hope you've enjoyed all this rambling. Jesus, there was an awful lot to talk about. To see the next episode of this retrospective series, go to here. To see the full playlist of this series going on, go to here. To see the original LP of the one I have critiqued, go to here. Or even consider subscribing to the channel by going to here instead. Thank you for watching.